Hey Newton, how is the 16th century?
Don't get too fresh, Einstein, with your 20th century mumbo-jumbo. Anyway, we are not here for pleasantries. We need to discuss this latest science assignment.
Oh, is that the one with the massive particle accelerator below Geneva?
No. Your comments are as ridiculous as your hair. I'm talking about the working scientifically first-hand investigation. It is an assignment that all Year 7 students must do. And why is your accent American instead of German?
Hey, no need to rage at me. I'm not Leibniz. I spent the later part of my life in America, so I think that my accent is explained away just fine. Now, what is this assignment about?
It is about designing an experiment, doing the experiment, and then writing a formal scientific report on the experiment.
I see. You and I both know it's very important that all people know how scientific research is carried out and communicated. This allows people to make informed decisions when choosing products and to understand scientific issues better. It is not just to help scientists like us.
Yes. It seems that you understand why we are doing this after all.
This assignment interests me. I may need some help understanding it. I read through the assignment sheets, but English is not my first language. What do I have to do?
Firstly, you will need to understand the aim of the experiment.
Ah, the aim. That is what you were trying to find out.
I overheard a woman talking to a professor colleague of mine at Oxford University last week. She wanted to know if a token of one color could hold more drops of water than another colored token.
Tell me more.
The professor said that such complex and earth-shattering research should only be undertaken by Year 7 science students.
Yeah. I'm still listening.
He then had a guess at the result. He thought that red tokens could hold more drops of water than other colored tokens.
A guess at the result. That's what we call a hypothesis. Did he say why he thought that?
By that time I had walked away to buy a ham sandwich.
A ham sandwich. Now this is something I could get excited about. What's next?
We come up with a title for the investigation and then start to design the experiment. We have to decide the thing we are going to change.
The independent variable.
Yes. And then the thing we are going to measure.
The dependent variable.
Right. Then we need to make sure we keep everything else exactly the same. This way we know that any changes observed in the dependent variable are only caused by the changes we make to the independent variable.
The controlled variables. If we do not control all the other variables, it will not be a fair test.
Next we make a list of all the equipment that we will need. After that we start on the method. A good method is written as a procedure and should include a diagram. Each instruction starts with a verb.
An action word like mix, fill, or measure.
Yes. Each instruction should also be numbered and start on a new line. It must be written in present tense, use proper scientific words and never use personal pronouns.
Okay, so we don't use words like I, we, me, us. We use science words and write as if it is happening right now.
Great care and thought should be applied when designing an experiment. The procedure should be followed exactly and results measured and recorded with the highest of accuracy.
This way we know that the experiment is valid.
Yes. In addition to this, the experiment should be repeated a number of times and some sort of analysis done, like an average.
This is done so we know the results are reliable. You've bored me enough. Let's get to it.
Not so fast. We have to decide how we are going to record the results.
Yeah. A table and then a graph. I've got it. Let's go. You're not the only scientist here, you know.
But we need to work out how many rows the table will have.
That's just how many different colors of tokens we will test.
And then how many columns we will need.
Yes, I know. And don't forget the averages.
And
we need to work out what headings should be there and what units to use. Let's do this thing. Einstein getting impatient.
Now we need to figure out what the graph will look like. We will use the same heading as we did for the table. The independent variable will go on the x-axis.
That's the axis at the bottom. The horizontal axis.
And the dependent variable will go on the y-axis.
That's the axis on the side. The vertical axis. We will also use the same headings on each axis as we did for the table, as well as the same units.
Yes.
The graph is just another way of presenting the same data, but it allows you to see differences or relationships more clearly.
Then we need to work out what type of graph to use. A line graph or a column graph.
The trick is to look at the type of data you have for your dependent and independent variables.
Continue.
Well, the way I remember it is like this. If both variables are number data, then it will be a line graph. If one variable is category data and the other is number data, then it will be a column graph.
So in this experiment, we have the number of drops, which is number data. The other variable is the color of the tokens, which are categories.
So our awesomely smart team of Year 7 scientists should have no problem working out what type of graph to use.
At this point, our Year 7 team can start the experiment. Once the experiment has been repeated a number of times and the data collected in a table, a graph can be drawn.
Then a conclusion.
Right.
A conclusion is a statement about what happened in the experiment. You need to write about whether or not your hypothesis was supported by the experiment, or if the evidence goes against your hypothesis.
Two important things here. A conclusion is not just a repeating of your results, it must relate to your hypothesis. Second, it is perfectly okay for your hypothesis to be wrong. Many fantastic discoveries have been made by disproving a hypothesis.
Like if you had a hypothesis that you could somehow turn lead into gold and live forever, and all experiments you did on this failed to support the hypothesis. It would strongly suggest that alchemy is nonsense.
Oh, shut up. I have never belittled any of your beliefs or any of your scientific investigations.
Okay. Moving right along then. Next up, we need a discussion.
I am now quite irritated. I will carry on now for the sake of science. A discussion is about the scientific ideas involved in the experiment. Our Year 7 friends will need to write about the results of the experiment and suggest reasons for their findings.
I noticed in the assignment sheets that there was help for each section of the experiment. If they read each part carefully, listen to their teacher, and do their personal best, everything should work out fine.
Finally, the experiment should be typed up in a word processor. It should have all the headings and sections that are outlined in the assignment sheets.
This is fantastic. Only one thing I am still not sure about. How well do I need to do this?
The name of the student and their class should appear on both the assignment sheet and the word processed report. All sections of the assignment worksheets should be completed in full, with the student's neatest handwriting and with an effort that reflects their personal best.
That seems fairly clear. What about the word processed report?
This needs to be done on a computer in a word processor such as Microsoft Word. The graph could be hand-drawn and glued into the report, or a graph could be generated in a spreadsheet program such as Microsoft Excel. Again, all sections should be present and to a standard that could be described as excellent.
Too easy. Is that all?
Both the completed assignment sheets and the completed report should be submitted by the due date. The report must be printed on paper. Mailed and flash drive versions will not be accepted.
Sounds fair enough. Okay, now it is time to start.
Yes, it's time to go.